What is ear candy? And does it taste like wax? Today I'm going to talk about ear candy and show you some Elektron model samples super sweetness. But I'm going to start with a bit of dirt. Before I can explain what I mean by ear candy, I'm going to need some new sounds, some little bleeps and warbles and strange noises. And because I haven't played with it for a while, I'm going to grab the Monotron delay out. It's really easy to fiddle with, and it can give you some really nice spacey sounds that aliens invading Earth in the 1950s would have been quite proud of. What I do is just mess around with the thing and have half an ear open for sounds that I can use later to chop up. Okay, so enough messing around. Now it's time to chop those sounds up and make something usable out of that little jam session. I tend to use Audacity for all my sound editing on a PC. I run Linux, and Audacity comes with most distributions, and it's free and it's quite easy to use. I don't need to do a lot of sound design. I just need to be able to chop out the sections that I want and normalise them so that the volume is relatively uniform across all the snippets that I then have. Once I've chopped them up and I've assembled them into a little collection, I can then load those samples onto any of the boxes that I fancy using. But today I'm going to use the samples, and I find the samples is really very good for producing ear candy in tracks, and there are a couple of reasons for this. Now I've got some bleepy bloops and some wibbly wobblies. I can load them onto the samples and I can explain exactly what I mean by ear candy and show you how I use the samples to get there. Okay, so if you've got a basic simple loop, it can be quite repetitive, and if you're trying to create a hypnotic track, that might be exactly what you want. But sometimes it can get a bit tiring and a bit wearing for the listener. So it's good to have the occasional sound in there that will break things up and keep the interest going. The art really is to let these sounds and these kind of audio punctuations just lie down in the mix so that they're not overbearing, they don't immediately jump out, but they sit there so that people register them and keep feeling like the track is moving somewhere and that there are new elements being added and something is progressing. If they detract from the main groove, then you're really getting it wrong. All of my groove boxes can add in a little bit of ear candy at random points. They all have probability on them, but the samples has an edge. On the MC-101 and the circuit tracks, you can adjust the probability on individual steps. And while that is very useful for creating ear candy, that's not what we're going to be doing today. And this is where I say that the samples has an edge on doing this kind of thing. In order to take advantage of this edge, I need to set up a track. So I use sample flipping to set a different sound for each step that I want the sound to trigger on. The way you do that is you press down on the step number and then you just dial up the sample that you want while you've got your finger on that step. As well as dialing in specific samples, you can also lock other parameters on individual steps. Although on the samples I don't tweak the chance parameter on the individual steps and lock that in, what I do tend to do is play with the velocity of individual steps, so I get a uniform kind of balance of the set volume of the sounds when they play back. The samples has a dedicated chance dial, and you can use that to increase the lovely sprinkles of audio goodness that reach your lug holes on the fly. Now, while that track is playing back, if I turn the chance parameter, you can hear that the amount of ear candy, the amount of extra little noises and tweaks which keep your interest increases or decreases according to the amount of probability. Like I say, you can use probability on individual steps on both the MC-101 and the circuit tracks, but the samples is the only box I've got where you can take a whole track and turn the probability for all of the steps on that track up with one dial. That way you've got much more control over how the track develops while you're actually performing. I'm still working on a drum fill video. It's more of a struggle than it really ought to be, but it is coming, so stay with me and be a bit patient with it. In the meantime, like, subscribe, and in the words of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation, share and enjoy.